Hi guys, what's up? Thank you for joining me again. I am going to do the next part of my addiction recovery story. We left off last where I was homeless in Chester, and it was after the tragic rape incident I had. So pick up after that. Thank you guys for your support through all this. You've been great. I've had some great support and comments, and I really do appreciate every single one of you. Okay, so after that, I went back to Wilmington, trying to, escape that mess. Um, this time, I got involved in selling crack for a local crack dealer. Um, his idea was, well, white girls will be able to sell more, because I don't know. It worked because, all the white people that came down to Wilmington, it's very dangerous there. So they saw a little white girl in the corner and they're like, oh, she's not going to beat me or anything like that. So I sold a lot, and together, we made a lot of money. He was very fair with me. He broke me off with drugs and money. One night I don't know what I decided, but I said, you know what? I'm taking all of it tonight. Um, and I didn't meet back up with them after the night like I usually do to give him his money and get more product. So I kept about $1,500 worth of product. I split it between me and my friend Stacy. We had a ball, we partied, we sold some of it and got a hotel room. And the whole time, I don't know what I was thinking. Like he was just gonna, be okay with it. I don't know. So after that, I was hiding from him constantly. I was getting threats. People were coming up to me saying, he's looking for you. He's going to find you, and, he's going to put you on the tracks. And I believed him. He would have. I believed him. I have reason to believe that he's done it before. And, he left me these horrible voice messages. Everyone around me was worried, even just, you think, oh, they're not your real friends. They're just crackheads. But for just being crackheads, they were really worried. Some of them helped me hide or whatever. Darby, it's my cat. He wants to be on camera. Anyway, so everyone was worried. One night, Chris called, my fiance, and he was down in Florida with our daughter. He had been doing good. He was sober. He was in a halfway house, and he went down to Florida where our 2-3-year-old daughter was staying with my aunt and uncle. They had taken her in kindly, and were taking care of her for us. And so he called me and he was like, let us come get you. You can't stay there. There's trouble in Chester. People want to kill you in Wilmington. And, at first I was like, no way. But then, I thought about it and I heard Remy's voice, saying, is that mommy? And that's all it took. I said, come get me. So him and my uncle left right like an hour after that. They're amazing, my aunt and uncle and Chris. They came all the way up, didn't sleep the whole way up. My uncle and Chris came and picked me up in his Charger. I jumped in the car, fell asleep in the back seat, and I stayed asleep the whole way from Wilmington down to Jacksonville, Florida. I was, withdrawing. And once again, I was going to try and beat heroin and coke. I remember the first couple of days I slept at my aunt's house, and it was great. Everyone just let me sleep to try and beat it and get over it. Meanwhile, Chris had a great job. My uncle got him a great job down at the Navy shipyards doing scaffolding. He made good money, and we had planned to stay down there for a little while and buy a house, and, things were looking good. It was awesome. We had Remy 24/7, so I was a mom again, and that enough made me just, want to be off the drugs and be doing well. My aunt and uncle took such good care of me and did such great things for us while we were down there. A couple months in, I had 2 teeth pulled. Of course, I wasn't honest with the dentist, and he gave me Vicodin. Um, I don't know why I thought, oh, I could just use them this once. It's fine. I'll be fine. So I shared them with Chris, and we were both off to the races. We were both going to emergency rooms again and making up dry sockets and getting pills. And after a couple weeks, my aunt's not stupid. She confronted us and we ran. You know, she gave us an ultimatum saying, you know, you're going right now today to rehab, both of you, and we ran. Um, this is how messed up an addict's mind is. I didn't know the area. I didn't know Florida. I had Googled where they were having trouble with prostitution in Jacksonville because I figured drugs would be near. And all the news articles talked about this Phillips Highway in Jacksonville. So we called one of his friends and said, take us to Phillips Highway. Um, I made money during the day for a hotel room, doing what I did best, unfortunately. And then anything extra I made was for drugs. We made connections down there, found out where to buy crack, found out where to buy dope. And it's actually hard to find dope in Florida. They don't call it dope. If you say dope, they think you're meaning crack. And so the first couple times we got dealt crack, and we're like, what the hell? We figured out dope is called boy down south. Anyway, so I was back to smoking crack and shooting dope all day. After about a week walking around in the sun and the Florida heat, I had bad degree sunburn all over my face and my shoulders. My skin was peeling. It was disgusting. And I developed a horrible kidney infection. I just remembered finally I couldn't take it anymore. I said, I got to go to the hospital. So we were walking to the hospital. It was only a couple blocks away, and I couldn't even make it. I collapsed in the field. Chris called the ambulance, and they took me. They warned me that my kidney was permanently damaged because I let this kidney infection go on, and didn't go to get help until I was literally collapsing on the ground. Anyway, my mom, I spoke with her, and she said she was going to come get me, and I didn't want to leave. You know, I just had relocated with Remy, and she said, well, we'll go get Remy. And I felt so guilty. You know, my aunt and uncle had taken such good care of her, and they had bonded with her, and, you know, we went and got her, and I don't know if my mom called the cops or if my aunt called the cops, but the cops came. It was horrible. It was horribly emotional. I was just numb at this point. I was a shell. And the cops said, you know, we can't stop the parents from taking her. I don't know how we even got her because it was obvious just to look at me and know I was wasted. But we got her. When we arrived back in Delaware, me and him agreed to go to rehab. So my mom dropped us off in Chester at the Access Center. And since it was a Friday, we couldn't do anything till Monday. And instead of telling her that, you know, we figured it's okay. We'll just stay out this weekend, and it'll be our last weekend, and we'll get well and whatever. So we got money and got drugs all weekend, which turned into a week because Monday came, and I was like, I'm not ready. You know, we always needed one more bag or one more hit. And it was kind of slow in Chester. It was summer. It was hot. It was horrible. I had a bright idea to go to Wilmington because I was like, well, Wilmington, you know, I made a lot of money there. So we took the bus, and when we got there, we found out the whole city was under some huge prostitution sting, and there was no girls out working. There were no Johns. It was horrible. So we had to go back to Chester. Didn't have any bus money, so we walked. We walked from Wilmington, Delaware, all the way to Claymont, Delaware, by the Tri-State Mall, if any of you know where that is. Then kept walking all the way down 9th Street, ended up in Linwood, to where I couldn't walk anymore. I said, you know, I have to stop. I'm going to collapse. I almost collapsed in front of the Lower Chichester Police Department. So we walked to Trainer Park, and we spent the night at a picnic table. I woke up about 3 in the morning. That's Darby breaking stuff. It's okay, Darb. I'll yell at you later. 3 in the morning to a cop's flashlight in my face. And he found a crack pipe and needles. And of course I had a failure to appear. They let Chris go immediately, and I was processed into George W. Hill Correctional Center. The hell of correctional centers. It's seriously like, you feel like you're in like Thailand or something. It's horrible the way they treat the prisoners. Anyway, I did about a month and my mom bailed me out. She took me to her house, but she kept me on the tightest leash ever. And she had let my son go with his estranged father, my ex-husband, on a mini vacation. And now his father was refusing to bring him home. So thank God he was in the Army still at that time. I ended up getting in touch with his commander, and he forced him to bring my son home. So I stayed at my mom's for a few months with my kids, and I did well. I had both the kids. I got a job, a great job in the city, making $18 an hour. Like, you know, when I put my mind to things, I could do it. It was so nice to be with the kids, but I was white knuckling my addiction. For those of you who don't know, white knuckling sobriety refers to the practice of desperately holding on to sobriety without working a recovery program. Many programs stress the impossibility of maintaining sobriety by sheer force of will, but there are some, few and far between, who are able to make it for some time. The problem with white knuckle sobriety is it doesn't allow for you to address the underlying factors of the addiction or grow spiritually or mentally. And every day is just an internal struggle to avoid your triggers. So one day at work on my lunch break, you know, I worked right in the city. I walked downtown with my little boots and my blazer and my, you know, key card, and I went and bought crack and went back to work and smoked in the bathroom, and then was out of my mind, so I went and bought dope, of course, to come down. I did it maybe a couple bags and a couple bags of crack every other day for a couple weeks, and then one night right before Christmas I ran again, leaving the kids at my mom, and this is still one of my worst memories. I put them both to bed, and I knew I was going to go, and the pool was just too strong. You feel like the worst piece of shit when you say, oh, the pool was just too strong, in the pool of your kids laying in bed, my beautiful children laying in bed, wasn't strong enough to even keep me there. So I went downtown to Wilmington, and I found out the dealer I had robbed was still looking for me, and looking for me like crazy. He had girls out looking for me, everything. I had to leave right away, so I called an old John I knew, an old trick, and asked him to take me away from Wilmington. So he picked me up, got me some drugs to last me a few days, and he took me to his house in PA to kind of hide out. And I stayed for a few days, but, you know, he couldn't just feed me free drugs forever. So he took me back to Chester. I got right back into the scene, began running, jumping in and out of cars, running from police, staying as high as possible to ease the pain of what I had done to myself and leaving my kids again. One night, it was around 2:30 in the morning after we bought coke from a dealer. We were at 3rd and Highland Avenue in Chester. Me and my friend crossed the street, and as soon as we crossed the street, a car came up Highland Avenue, made a right onto 3rd Street, and 3 people hung out of the windows with guns. One of them was like an AK-47, and they shot him. It was horrible. I've never seen someone shot that close up. We saw his body fly up into the air and just fall down, and they kept shooting him, and every time a bullet would hit him, he would move, I remember, and it was like slow motion. He died, and his son also died that was down there selling drugs with him. His son was only 20. We realized how lucky we were because, you know, in 2 minutes earlier, we would have been killed in that crossfire. You know, those are just some of the things you see in addiction that any normal person, any smart person would run screaming, but I didn't. I stayed. And there's more. I'm going to keep going with the part 3. Thank you, guys, for all the kind words and comments, and thank you for checking out part 2. And stay tuned, and I'll drop part 3 tomorrow or the next day. Thank you, guys.